for all people to join.
Amit, there's a small request. If you can, I want this class to be preponed to 8 p.m. Can it be preponed to 8 p.m.?
Amit, let's discuss this later on. Let's focus on the demo first.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. That we can, of course, we can adjust according to everyone's availability, right?
Okay.
Okay, so let's start. So thanks for joining, everyone. My name is Amit, and I've been teaching this Cisco SD-WAN for last 4 years, and overall, I've been working into the SD-WAN for more than 6 years. Worked on various projects related to P edges, C edges, Cisco routers, installation, migrations from existing networks. So we will cover about everything, okay, in throughout the course. So today we will be taking in brief about all the things like course duration, and then the topics that would be covering, the certification, lab setup. So everything we will talk about in bits and parts about everything, so that you everyone have the overview, right? So in case if you have any question, feel free to interrupt, or you can post on chat. Okay. I hope I am audible, and the pace, I hope it's comfortable with everyone. Feel free to raise in case you have anything before we start.
Oh, please, sir.
Sorry,
Yeah,
go on.
Amit, your voice is clear.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Thanks for confirmation. So I'll start sharing my screen. So please let me know in case anyone, if you don't see my screen. I'm sharing the Paint screen, MS Paint. So we would be talking about Cisco SD-WAN, and I'll be taking up around the course duration, about the lab setup, right? So Cisco SD-WAN is the new name now. It's the fancy word these days, right? And the hot technology, we can say. Almost all organizations, they are moving from their existing networks, be it based on the MPLS networks or internet networks, right? So most of the organizations, they are now transforming their existing network WAN infrastructure to software-defined WAN, SD-WAN, right? So it's the full form for SD-WAN is software-defined wide area networking. So when we say software-defined, so in very layman language, you can say, or on high level, right? So what SD-WAN is, SD-WAN is kind of inbuilt automation tasks, which are needed for the, let's say, legacy networking. So example is, let's say if you want to automate iOS upgrades, right? We can do it via scripting in traditional networking, but for that, people need to be aware about, expert about that specific scripting language, right? Let's say if you are using Python, Ansible, right? So we need people who are comfortable, experienced on Python, Ansible, right? What if you already get a full-fledged GUI interface, right? Inbuilt scripts. We simply get a GUI page where we just select the device. We select the iOS image. So what SD-WAN will do for us, it would automatically push the new iOS images. It will check if sufficient memory is available or no, and it can parallelly upload iOS onto multiple devices as well as activate the iOS images, right? So kind of we are automating the jobs which are typical, time taking or complex with the existing legacy networking, right? So throughout the course, when we will be talking about SD-WAN, so what I usually do, I take one-to-one comparison, right? So to understand why exactly we need SD-WAN, right? Why SD-WAN, why not something else? And what are the challenges that we see? Like we can draw one straight line to say, if on left hand side, if we say these are the legacy things, on right hand side, if we have SD-WAN side of the things. In legacy, it is complex to upgrade multiple devices, to download image onto multiple devices, right? Bulk upgrades are complex, right? Here on SD-WAN side, it's very much straightforward. With single click, we can upgrade the devices and we can upload the image and we can upgrade. With a single click, we need not worry about the background things which are going on. So Cisco is taking care of these things, whatever are happening in the background, right? So few more things we will be talking about in few minutes about those things, right? So SD-WAN is software-defined wide area networking. It stems from, right? So SD-WAN, it is inherited from SDN, software-defined networking. The concept of SDN is to separate different planes like control plane, data plane, or management plane. So if you, anything, do you have any questions so far? Anyone? Any doubt?
No questions from my side.
Sorry, once again?
No questions.
Okay, okay, good, thanks. So this is the concept of SDN, to separate control plane, data plane, or management plane. So if we take simple example of a traditional router, the router in traditional networking, right? What happens if on a Cisco router, what happens if BGP process is causing high CPU? Can someone tell me what happens when we see BGP process is causing high CPU to the router? There are various implications. We lose access to the router, right? Then the packet forwarding.
Packet loss.
Yeah, packet forwarding stops. There are packet losses, right? What else? There may be drops, high jitter, etc. So basically performance would be degraded, right?
Right.
So what SD-WAN does, it separates these planes, right? So in case if we talk about a SD-WAN, a device in SD-WAN, right, compared to the legacy side, here we are separating the control plane. So anything with routing protocol that would not impact this router. Anything happening at the control plane. Why? Because we totally dedicate the job of control plane, right, of handling the routing. What the job which BGP was doing in traditional networking, it is dedicated to a separate device which would solely be taking care about routing only. This device, it is named as vSmart in SD-WAN, right? So it takes care of routing only. There is no other job for this device. It is a virtual machine, dedicated machine of SD-WAN component called vSmart, and all the routers, right? They would simply be taking part only in the data plane, only to send the packets from router 1 to router 2 or router 1 to router 3. Their routing it would be towards this device. These routers, they would not be exchanging the routing information directly. They would be exchanging with dedicated device. So control plane is isolated here, right? So in case high CPU, high number of routes, anything, it won't be impacting data plane operations. The data would keep forwarding. Management plane, we have a separate device which is acting as part of management plane. This is another component of SD-WAN. What it does only management operations to the router, to push the configuration remotely, to capture the statistics, utilization, alarms, sort of all management tasks. So this job is also dedicated to another component, virtual machine. These components of control plane, management plane, they can be hosted anywhere. Let's say on cloud, on private cloud, public cloud, Cisco cloud, AWS, Azure, or on premises as well, right? So this is brief about SD-WAN, right? As I said, it is inherited from SDN. So the purpose of SDN is to separate different planes, control plane, data plane, and management plane, right? There are various advantages that we have with SD-WAN, right? So if we have on a router, if we have two links in legacy networking, right? WAN 1 and WAN 2. Since we say SD-WAN, so it is everything about WAN network. Nothing, this Cisco SD-WAN, these components, we manage management plane component, vSmart, control plane component, they would have visibility only till the WAN routers. They cannot do anything on any device behind the WAN router. Okay, so that is why SD-WAN, software defined wide area networking. So what we do with SD-WAN, we are using more of the software based approach, more of the automation sort of things for WAN side of the network, right? So if we talk about traditional networking, if in traditional networking we have two links, WAN 1, WAN 2, right? I want to say that I want to send, let's say, voice traffic via WAN 1, right? And I'm saying send FTP traffic via WAN 2, right? Now, this is a generic statement, right? How to identify the voice traffic? Can someone tell me? How can I identify, how can we identify in traditional networking on our router, how to identify if packets passing through the router are voice traffic or it is a FTP packet? So in traditional networking, there is no real way to say that this is voice traffic. Or FTP, we can, of course, define based on the port numbers, port 21, 22, right? We can match traffic based on IP address or port number. Is there a way on router to define access list or something to say match Teams traffic? No, right? With SD-WAN, we can match and we can define a condition to say that this traffic, let's say Teams traffic, it should pass via WAN 1 link as primary path. Right? In traditional networking, we cannot define the traffic based on application. This is one of the important use, right? Key use of SD-WAN, that with SD-WAN, we can define the traffic based on application. We say match Teams, or we can say match YouTube, right? So it is called as application recognition. How we have advantage of SD-WAN using application recognition? Because with SD-WAN, we can match the traffic based on the application name. There are 2000 plus applications which we can match just by name. We can match O365. So it will match all applications which fall under O365. Similarly, there are many other applications, let's say match Facebook, right? So we can steer the traffic based on the application name. If it is a Teams traffic, I can steer across WAN 1. If it is YouTube traffic, I can say pass it through via WAN 2. It is not feasible with legacy networking. When router is working in legacy networking mode, right, then we can only steer the traffic based on IP address or port numbers. We cannot define application. This thing is also called as, it is based on DPI technology, which is deep packet inspection. There is N-bar2 protocol algorithm technology, which runs on the SD-WAN device, which helps to identify the application type. It looks at the packet IP header and then it helps to categorize the application. It is what type of application? Is it a YouTube traffic or is it a Teams audio, Teams video, right? Like this. Anything? Any question on this?
No.
Okay. So then if I move on further, right? Before talking about like the advantages of SD-WAN, so this our course of SD-WAN, it usually it is completed in 50 hours. Rest, it depends upon the pace, but generally this course, our session, right, this SD-WAN course, it would be completed in around 50 hours, right? So now, sorry, anybody asking something?
No, sir.
Okay,
Nothing.
okay, no worries. So everyone, right, each candidate would get their dedicated lab instance, right? So each candidate who has enrolled in the course, they would get their dedicated lab instance. So need everyone, right? Everybody need to configure their own lab instance from scratch. What I'll do in this session, right? I'll be doing on my instance of lab. We will be sharing with you the notes for the course, right? Then lab guides, right? Question answers from right interview perspective, the practical scenarios we will be covering, right, in the real environment, because see, when we are learning something, right, the theory part is sometimes a bit different from how things are working in the practical environment, in production environment, right? We would be covering few practical scenarios, how they are implemented in productions environment, few bugs, as you know, if we are talking about Cisco environment, so we cannot run away from bugs, right? Few bugs we would be talking about, and we would be covering the certification, right? So there is this Cisco SD-WAN certification that we will be covering. Let me show you. So this is the certification that you can go through once we are done with this course, right? 30415, implementing Cisco SD-WAN solutions. These are the topics that we would be covering: SD-WAN architecture, controller deployment, edge router, policies. Policies are equivalent to route maps in legacy networking. Security, key component, right? This is one of the main reasons of switching to SD-WAN. QoS, multicasting, management, and operations. So these all topics we would be covering throughout the course, right? Though they are shared here in high level way, right? There would be more in-depth topics, various things we would be talking about, right? Then we can have, of course, we have Q&A form with networkings where you can post your queries, right? We have support team to assist in case anything needed in terms of, let's say, notes, documents, let's say lab assistance, right? And of course, I am also available. I'll sharing with you my email, right? My contacts. So in case anything needed, right? I may not be able to answer you right away, but I'll be there, right? In case anything needed. So of course, if you have anything from your production environment, you want to discuss your queries, right? We have fixed topology for this SD-WAN lab. That would be same for everyone, right? If you need, we can customize the topology. If you need customized topology to work upon, right? Where how routers are connected, how many routers you need, where controllers are set up. So sort of those things we can, of course, we are flexible enough to customize those things, right? Now coming over again back to our SD-WAN things, right? We talked about application aware thing, right? We can match the traffic based on application. There is concept of SDN, right? So now if we write down, let's say the advantage of SD-WAN, application recognition, then SDN to separate lanes, right? Number 3, we have ZTNA network, zero trust network access. So what does it mean? So in legacy networking, if you have 2 routers, they are connected via some ISP, right? If this is my router 1, router 2, if they are connected via public internet, they have public IP address, then if I have on this interface, let's say this is gigabit 0/0, this is another interface, gigabit 0/0 on R2. If they have some public IP address, they can ping to each other, right? And when 2 routers, they are connected across ISP, right? Anybody who is sitting here, they can sniff this packet, whichever are going from R1 to R2, right? Here with SD-WAN, we have additional security that this traffic between R1 and R2, it would be IPsec secured, plus this IPsec would be built on the top of SSL tunnels. So we have additional layers of security, right? Although in traditional network also we have IPsec, right? But that is only IPsec. Here, IPsec tunnels are built on the top of SSL tunnels. So we have like VIPs, they are given 7 layers of security. So we have similar thing here. So these SSL tunnels, they are only established, right, when their certificates match, right? This is what SSL is. SSL means we use certificates for authentication. Security, I will say, on high level, right? So we have certificate-based security. So all devices in SD-WAN, they must be certified from a certificate authority, CA, like Symantec or DigiCert. So all devices, controllers and devices, if any device that is not certified from certificate authority, that device cannot take part into the SD-WAN. Is this clear, everyone? Any question?
Please tell me once again, sir. I cannot understand this one.
Okay, certificate, right? So this is my legacy environment, and here we have SD-WAN, right? If we have 2 routers, they are connected via ISP, right? They have their public internet connections, 2 routers. Here some IP address here as well, right? Since they are on public internet, they can ping to each other, right? And when 2 routers, 2 interfaces, they can ping to each other, right? If I'm sending any traffic from R1 to R2, right? Then anybody sitting at ISP, they can look at the traffic type. What are the packets using Wireshark, right? If I do a PCAP here, I can open Wireshark and I can see the traffic type. But with SD-WAN, what happens? In similar scenario, 2 routers connected via public internet again, right? They have additional security than legacy routers. So there would be IPsec tunnels between these 2 devices, right? This IPsec tunnel we can configure in legacy as well. But when we configure IPsec tunnels here, right, it is only IPsec tunnel, no SSL based security here. But on right hand side, when we configure IPsec tunnel, here the IPsec tunnels, sorry. So here IPsec tunnels are built on the top of SSL tunnels or SSL security. So what is SSL? Secure sockets layer, right? Basically, it means that we use certificates for security, right? So we have additional layers of security in SD-WAN, right? Zero trust, network access, ZTNA. That means each and every device, right? If I plug on another router in SD-WAN side, then this router, sorry, this is R1, this is R2, this is R3, right? You see this yellow IPsec tunnel between R1 and R2, right? But since this R3 device, it does not have any IPsec tunnel, right? So in SD-WAN, data flows only on inside the IPsec tunnel. Whenever there is traffic coming in behind from LAN at R1, it would pass through this yellow tunnel. Since there is no tunnel towards R3, so R1 and R2, there would be no communication towards R3 until IPsec tunnel is established between R1 and R3 and R2 and R3. This IPsec tunnel would only be established when their certificates are matched. These devices, they need certificates for this IPsec tunnel to be established. Clear now?
Yeah, clear.
Clear,
Okay,
sir.
good. So all the devices, they need certificates. We will see what is this certificate, how certificates are set up, how they are exchanged. We will be working on all these things in detail during the lab, right? We will see this thing until the certificates are done. These devices, anybody sitting on the LAN, they cannot communicate. If this is a PC behind R1, this is server behind R2, they cannot communicate if this IPsec tunnel is not there. If we have this IPsec tunnel with additional SSL security, nobody can look at our actual traffic type. Reason? Because using IPsec tunnel, our actual traffic would be encrypted. Right? Any question? Anyone?
No, sir, please continue.
Okay. So now, third, I said ZTNA, Zero Trust Network, right? Now, fourth, we have dynamic path selection. Now, what does that mean? So if I have a router, right, there are 2 links to go to any other site. WAN 1, WAN 2, right? If there are two links, if I have a PC sitting behind R1, it is sending traffic to R1, right? I assume the default path is via WAN 1. If we talk, say this is the legacy network, not SD-WAN, right? Now, do you have any way in legacy networking to redirect the traffic across WAN 2 when WAN 1 has packet drops? If WAN 1 has packet drops, can we redirect traffic to WAN 2 dynamically? No, right? So with SD-WAN, what can be done? We can define the threshold that in case latency is more than 50 milliseconds, then switch traffic to WAN 2. So it would keep monitoring the latency across WAN 1. If latency goes more than 50 milliseconds, it would shift the traffic onto the WAN 2. And as soon latency goes normal, it would then switch traffic back to the WAN 1. So dynamic WAN selection. It can steer the traffic dynamically. You need not log into the router to see that there are packet drops. Let me switch the traffic manually to second link and then keep monitoring for after few hours. Yes, if when one link it is back with normal performance or no, there is no need of manual monitoring or manual tasks, right? It is kind of automation that R1 would continuously monitor the traffic. It will continuously monitor the performance of both the links, right? If there are three links, we can define the conditional decisions for three links, right? So this is the fourth advantage that we have dynamic path selection, right? Now, fifth additional layer of security is whitelisting model. We need to manually whitelist the serial number of all the devices. If serial number is not whitelisted, then that device cannot take part into the SD-WAN. Again, in this scenario, R3, if the serial number of R3 is not whitelisted, then R3 won't be able to form this IPsec tunnel with R1 or R2. This is additional layer of security that we have with SD-WAN whitelisting model.
Oh, can you please repeat again?
Sure. So if we look at this diagram on the right hand side, there are three routers, R1, R2, and R3. R1 and R2, I assume their certificates are established, their serial numbers are whitelisted. But I'm saying the serial number of R3, it is not whitelisted, right? There is a device in SD-WAN called vBond. It is part of orchestration plane, right? So here at this device, we need to whitelist the serial number of all the devices. Say R1 has serial number 1, R2 has serial number 2, R3 has serial number 3. This device vBond, it must be aware about the serial number of all the devices. If we assume the serial number 3 is not available at vBond, right? Then these devices 1 and 2, they won't be able to form this IPsec tunnel with R3. Secure path won't be established, and anybody who is sitting behind R3, that user won't be able to access the resources of R2 and R1, this PC or this server. The serial number of device must be whitelisted manually here. This is additional layer of security here. Any doubt?
No, whitelist means defined, right?
Yes, we need to manually type the serial number at vbond. That this is the device that is trusted and you can accept his connections. You can allow this device to participate in the SD-WAN network.
Yes, right.
Okay, clear now?
Yeah, clear now. Thanks.
Okay, good. So now number 6, right? Then since we have now, let me clean it up or let me open new one. Just a moment, let me plug my headphones. Audible? Can someone please confirm? Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, thanks. I just changed my battery was going down, my Bluetooth headset. Okay. So we talked about this application recognition, SDN to separate different planes, then ZTNA, Zero Trust Network, that each device must have certificate, each device must be certified, right? Then dynamic path selection, we can select the traffic, that X traffic or voice traffic should go via WAN 1 or based on the dynamic performance, right? Then we have whitelisting model that all the devices, they must be whitelisted, right? Now, another cool feature with SD-WAN is remote configuration. So with SD-WAN, if we have X number of routers, 500, 200, 4 routers, right? With SD-WAN, what we can do from the management plane component of SD-WAN, we can push the configuration remotely on one router or all the routers. 1, 2, 3, it depends on our choice, how we want to manage. We can push configuration remotely. Is it feasible with legacy networking? Not in simple way. You need again some sort of scripting to push configuration remotely onto multiple devices. Right? Now,
Hello, this side Akash. Hello.
yes,
Via
Akash.
cat tool, we can push config in
Yes.
same way. Why?
Yes. Yes. But what if you want to customize your parameters? Is there that option available? Let's say, because
I
these are,
don't
let's say,
understand. Customize means?
yeah. So if you have 4 routers,
Okay.
right? The
Mhm.
IP address would be different for all the routers,
Okay.
right? WAN IP
Right.
address, LAN IP address,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
would be different.
Yeah,
So,
sure. Yeah.
so is there flexibility to add the IP addresses, different IP addresses on different routers?
No, no, not IPS.
Okay.
We can
So,
push
mhm,
config, any type of config, but not
yes,
IP. We can't change
yes,
IP address, when
yes.
IP
Here,
address.
what we will do on management plane of SD-WAN, we will simply define one configuration file. We will keep IP address as variable thing. That because IP address, it must be unique, right? It cannot be duplicated.
Yes, yes,
So
yes,
when
yes.
this SD-WAN would be pushing configuration onto the R1, right? It will ask
Yeah,
us to input the IP address for R1
yes,
one by one.
yes.
Or we can link with CSV file that WAN IP address and LAN IP address for R1 should be this. Similarly for other routers. Okay.
Okay.
Now, another cool feature with SD-WAN, while we are pushing configuration remotely. So what happens if in traditional networking, we are pushing configuration remotely, let's say via X
Yeah.
tool, right? You are using. What happens if you mistakenly shut down your WAN interface as part of that configuration,
Router is not accessible.
right? You would lose access. Is there
Yes,
way to
yes.
recover that from that situation?
We are not able to configure the route, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So is there any way to recover from that situation?
Local
So
login.
when is the device is on, then only we need
Yes. So
able to
you need
configure the route.
the console connection, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
correct.
Restart the device. Now,
yeah.
with SD-WAN, what it does, in case something like this happens, it automatically rollbacks the configuration. If when we
Okay,
are
okay.
pushing the configuration remotely, SD-WAN identifies yet after pushing the configuration, I have lost the access to the device, right?
Mhm.
R1, it would keep polling to management plane component, right? As soon R1 identifies, yes, last time there was some configuration pushed, and after that I have lost the access to management plane component. It would automatically roll back its configuration to the previous one.
Okay.
Okay. So we have this security here in terms of losing the access, we need not worry about,
Okay.
right? Default time is 6 minutes. It waits for 6 minutes for connection to be up with management plane component. If
Okay.
within 6 minutes, if it retains the access to management plane, it won't roll back the change. If it loses the access to the management plane component, then it would roll back the configuration.
Okay.
Okay, so remote configuration. Now, there is keyword ZTP, zero touch provisioning. Now, if you got a new router, right? If you have received a new router at a site, what is the usual way to activate that box to make that device live or make that device reachable to your NMS or remote server? What are the usual things that happens? Number one, we receive delivery for the hardware, right? Then we power on device, plug cable. Then what's the third step? Console to the device, right? Then doing the skinny configuration, basic config to make router reachable remotely, right?
Right.
These are the things that we do. Now, how about this thing? Console to the device. Uh, Can everyone log into the device? No. There must be someone technical onto the site, right? Who can log into the device, console, look at the baud rate, what's happening, iOS upgrade, etc. Right? So there must be someone technical person on the site to do this job, to console to the device and do the configuration. Correct? Now, with SD-WAN, there is one cool feature, ZTP, zero touch provisioning. There we need not console to the device. We simply need to connect router. We receive the router on site. We power on and plug the WAN cable. This step is not needed. This step 4 is also not needed. Right? As soon the WAN cable is connected to the device, it would retrieve its all configurations from management plane component automatically. And in 3 to 4 minutes, this router would get its configuration automatically from this component. Automatic provisioning. There are two ways, right, in SD-WAN, manual or automatic. With manual, we need to console to the device and push the basic configuration. With the automatic way, we just need to connect the WAN cable. Here we expect the IP address via DHCP because we are not doing any IP address configuration. We are not even doing any configuration on the router. So we are expecting the IP address via DHCP from ISP. Any question? Anyone?
Is it possible to configure in static AP?
On this
Same,
device?
right?
Yes, we can do, but that would be manual way of
Yeah.
provisioning.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, how our organizations are set up. If we have office in Delhi, office in London, office in UK, office in US. I am taking the example of 4 offices and only one router each. There may be different routers, 2 or 3 routers for redundancy, right? These are sort of their WAN links. They are connected to one common ISP. It can be private, public ISP. It can be MPLS VPN, right? Or it can be public internet. So in case anyone, if you are not clear about the differences, how MPLS VPN or public internet would suffice this network, right? Don't worry. We will be talking about all prerequisites which are needed for SD-WAN, right? So I usually take 3 to 4 classes to cover the prerequisites, because
Okay.
everyone might not be at same level of understanding, right? In terms of, because everyone, you might be working in different environment, right?
Right.
So now, if we have our office in Delhi, there would be core switch, then there would be access switches. There may be wireless access points, WLCs, load balancer, firewall, right? Various things. And then at the end, there would be user machines, right? Now, similar things would be there on all the sites. Mumbai, UK, right? Similar infrastructure would be there everywhere. Now, if a user in Delhi wants to, let's say, share file with user on sitting at UK, it would be like this. This would be the path, right? Now, the scope of SD-WAN is to cover this network. This is the parameter for SD-WAN. SD-WAN takes care of WAN network, WAN routers, and things around WAN network. This is the scope for SD-WAN. To manage the devices, all these features that I told you about, these all features are taken care around WAN network. Okay. Now, if we want to, let's say, automate the configuration for the LAN side of the devices, core switches, access switches, then there is thing called as SD-LAN, software defined local area network. What it does, it automates the configuration for core switch, access points, WLCs, right, from DNS. Is across the WAN side of the network. SD-LAN is across the LAN side of the network. So just like SD-WAN, SD-LAN also has a broader scope, right? But we will be covering SD-WAN only throughout this course, right? Now, any question, anyone?
No questions from my side.
Okay, thanks. So when we say SD-WAN, right? SD-WAN was, or let's say Cisco SD-WAN, it was developed by company called as Viptela. Okay, so it was initially developed by Viptela. When Viptela was working on SD-WAN, right? At that point of time, there were some clients, some customers who were still using Viptela SD-WAN, right? At that point of time, Cisco did not have SD-WAN in their network, on their devices. SD-WAN was not feasible. So what Cisco did, Cisco purchased company Viptela. At this point of time, no Cisco router supported SD-WAN. Okay. Then Viptela company, they have their own set of hardware. Just like we have Cisco router, right? We have Juniper router, we have HP routers, right? Viptela had their own set of routers called as VH. This is Viptela router. The router hardware from company Viptela. But it only supported SD-WAN. It cannot act as traditional router or a plain router. There are various models for VH like VH100, VH1000, VH2000, VH5000, just like Cisco, right? Various capabilities of these devices, right? So when Cisco overtook Viptela, I told you no Cisco router supported SD-WAN. But Cisco maintained the support which Viptela was doing for Viptela hardware devices, VHs, right? Cisco, when overtook Viptela, they were manufacturing new VHs, they were selling VHs, they were supporting VHs in terms of the software, hardware support, RMA, replacements, right? Parallelly, what Cisco did, Cisco parallelly integrated SD-WAN in iOS XE. So there are 3 different iOS from Cisco iOS, which is on, let's say, Cisco 800 routers. iOS XE, it is on, let's say, 4000 routers, 1000, ASR 1000, right? Then iOS XR, like ASR 9000, CSR routers, right? So out of these 3 trains, right, only iOS XE based images on Cisco router can support SD-WAN. Here SD-WAN is not supported. Here SD-WAN is not supported. Why Cisco did this? To manage to retain their customers. Because when Cisco overtook Viptela, Viptela already sold their VHs. Cisco was also selling VHs, right? But there were many customers who already had Cisco routers. So in case what Cisco could have done to continue with VH devices for hardware for SD-WAN, right? Then they would lose market in terms of the people who have already purchased Cisco routers. So what Cisco done? They developed latest iOS XE code or iOS XE image to support both plain router or Cisco SD-WAN device. So using latest code, let's say 17.x image on Cisco routers, there are 2 modes in which Cisco router can act. One as plain router. When Cisco router is acting as plain router, it won't be able to understand SD-WAN language, right? These all automation sort of things, the points that I explained, those would not be available on Cisco router. But if we enabled SD-WAN feature, there is a command to enable or disable the SD-WAN mode of the router. If we have SD-WAN mode enabled, then it won't act as plain router. It would act as SD-WAN device. Cisco did this to retain their existing customers who already had routers. Now, what Cisco is doing now, they are phasing out VH or Viptela hardware to retain Cisco SD-WAN on their own Cisco routers only. But because this is happening now, so there are already organizations for 6-7 years, they already established their network on VHs, right? I have seen organizations who have 2000 VHs in their network. It is not easy one-day job to transform Viptela hardware to Cisco router, right? So it would take some time to transform their Viptela environment hardware, VHs hardware to Cisco router hardware. Additionally, these roles, VHs or Cisco router based SD-WAN, right? It is called as CH. VH, Viptela hardware supporting SD-WAN, CH, Cisco router supporting SD-WAN. Both of these can be set up virtually as well on VMs. They are available in the physical mode or virtual mode. So if we don't have physical hardware, need not worry about. If we simply have virtual machines, we can simply upload the code of VH, Viptela hardware, or CH of Cisco image, Cisco iOS or Viptela iOS. We can upload on virtual machine, and that virtual machine would then be acting as VH or CH. Anything so far? Is it good? Interesting?
Yeah, interesting, but I just want to know more syllabus. What points we will cover?
Okay. So I have that. 1 minute, let me open.
Is there any similar to Versa SD-WAN Viptela
So
Versa, sir?
I forgot to tell you the concept of SD-WAN is same for all vendors,
Okay.
right? So
Okay.
just like I explained these things, right? Application recognition, it may be there with the other vendors, but so far as much I know, it is not as much scalable as much Cisco has, right? There are many vendors like Versa, Meraki, Fortinet, right? But Cisco still, retains the majority, right? Still, what Cisco can support the complex large network, no other vendor can support, right? Again, the reason why Versa or other SD-WAN flavors, they are not, as much popular. The reason is the Cisco router, because if people already have Cisco hardware, why would they go to buy another hardware, right? If they can reuse their hardware, then that is the advantage with the customers, right? Yes, Sumit?
So my question is how Meraki technology is different from this Cisco, like Viptela or other
Okay,
SD-WAN technologies.
okay.
Yeah, because actually I got an opportunity with for the Meraki.
Okay.
So currently don't have experience in Meraki. So
Okay. So we have Cisco SD-WAN, then we have Meraki, right? Before I come to
Same
this, right?
situation with me also.
Yeah, good. I do have exposure to Meraki as well, right? But before I jump on to the compare the differences, so here I have this notes document. Here are the topics that we would be covering, both basics and advanced. So these are the topics for SD-WAN basics, SD-WAN fundamentals, how to set up controllers, right? Certificates, then whitelisting, iOS versions, right? VRRP configuration, routing.
correct. Actually, I have also one more question. Actually, if I have currently have an opportunity like for the interview in Meraki, so if they required a one year experience, so how can I crack that interview?
So
How
see,
should yeah.
the I would answer that, right? So I think somebody who asked about the course topics, is it clear?
Yeah, it is clear for me.
Okay. We will be sharing with this document with everyone, right, who would be enrolled, right? So then
Okay. Yeah.
now the things about Meraki, right? The problem about Meraki SD-WAN is that you cannot simulate in simulators like in GNS3 or EVNG, etc. This is the problem with Meraki. You can simulate Cisco SD-WAN in lab, just like Cisco routers, Juniper routers, switches, we can simulate in lab GNS3, EVNG, packet tracer, right? Meraki is not feasible. Meraki, you would need physical boxes to practice. So this is one of the
key challenge with Meraki, right? Second thing, Meraki is not as much scalable. So Meraki is for the small and medium enterprises, SME customers who have standard networks, let's say life insurance company, Reliance Life Insurance, right? So now on their office, right, mostly on their remote offices, they need just one box. There would be, let's say 10, 15 users sitting there, right? So Meraki is helpful for those scenarios. Now, if let's say if any customer decides to roll out their new offices, right? Let's say Reliance is planning to roll out their 50 new offices. It is easy to roll out to activate 50 new offices in Meraki than in Cisco SD-WAN or than in any other vendor. Why? Because with Meraki SD-WAN, what happens? There is a thing called as Meraki dashboard. Meraki dashboard is hosted on Cisco Cloud. It is a remote controller, you can say, from where everything is done. Remote configuration, monitoring, polling, iOS upgrades. Everything is done remotely. Say in terms of security, netting, firewall, etc. Everything is feasible from this controller. Okay. So you cannot do any configuration on CLI. You can just type the IP address on that is also on GUI, or you can say the day zero configuration. When you have received the device, you want to configure the IP address, you cannot go to CLI. You would simply connect Meraki box to PC. There you will get GUI interface to input the IP address. Once you connected IP address, you configured the IP address, that device should be reachable to this controller. And then everything can be done from here only. You cannot do any other configuration on that device. Just like on Cisco router, we can do CLI based configuration. Here it is not feasible in Meraki. Okay. So Meraki is also another company which Cisco overtook, just like Viptela, right? But Meraki is the parallel to Cisco SD-WAN, and it is for the small enterprises, for small companies which have less number of users. Okay. Now about the interview thing, right? You can go explore on Google, let's say the Meraki Q&A, right? Question answers, interview questions, you would get many. If you don't have exposure, then it's your luck, I would say. You can practice, you can go through the questions, right? And once you would be enrolled, then maybe we can talk about more, right? If time allows.
Oh, sure, sir.
Anything from anyone? Anything else?
I want to confirm the timings, like same timing 8:30 to 9:30 Monday to Friday, right?
So far, as much I know, but we can definitely, as Gaurav said, we can definitely take that up offline.
Offline, sorry.
Yes, offline meaning you can communicate with the Gaurav or the admin team for schedule.
Guys, I'll just drop a emails to you guys. What is the timing and all for this batch? Okay. Most probably the timing is 8:30 only.
Yeah, sure, sir. Gaurav, sir, I just have one question about the timings. Like it is from Monday to Friday class or
Monday to
weekend batch?
Friday. This is Monday to Friday.
Gaurav,
Okay.
can it be a little bit from 8 o'clock if possible?
No problem. So what I'll